What is up, everybody? Dan the Fireman here. We are going to go over this crash. Now, the person in front is going to be the father, the person with the camera. This is a beautiful area, but this is going to be in a curve. So these are the most common types of crashes and, outside of intersections, but definitely the most common single vehicle accident. So a little bit too fast in the turn. He's going to apply the brakes. It's going to lock up that rear tire, almost go into low side, grab traction, turn into a high side. So we're going to go over this crash and figure it out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over what exactly happened, what kind of caused the crash, not necessarily, did he go too fast, did he go too anything. We're gonna kind of go over the mechanics of, the physics of everything. So what's gonna happen here is gonna go into a turn right here. So the person in the back went from 65 to 53, unsure if it's kilometers or miles per hour, doesn't really matter, but there was that deceleration. So very good, he did the slow look, press, and roll portion. So he did the slow portion first, and he's going to start doing the look. So he's going to look around the turn here, which is very important for what you want to do. So if you can't see around the turn, you might need to slow down even more. So slow look, press, and roll. And then there's the advanced technique of trail braking. So like in the middle of the turn, it makes it even harder, or there's something going on, you can apply trail braking, which will help you out in the turns. But that is something that's an advanced skill. Highly recommend taking a class. We do teach that here at Ride Arizona MTC. So if you're in Arizona, we will teach that in the advanced class. So make sure you sign up for an advanced class. It's really good to have the on-hands instruction for that one specifically. Beginner stuff and a lot of the stuff that I do teach, you can definitely do it over, the internet and just watch videos. But the advanced stuff I leave to people in person. You know what I mean? So we're gonna move over to this portion. Right now, you can barely see it. Okay, I'm gonna try to zoom in on this part. We're going to see this little dot. Now, this is going to be his running lights, and then you're going to see it apply with the brake portion. Unsure of how much brake pressure he's applying. It could be 5% or it could be 100%. Just remember that if you do apply the brakes, the light will just come on. It doesn't matter how hard you press. So right here, we're going to kind of look, and then right here is when he applies the brakes. You see how brighter it got? We're going to go ahead and scroll back just a little bit. You also notice that his line positioning was a little different. So he's in line position 1 in this situation, across everywhere, it's kind of backwards. But at the end of the day, he's on the inside of the turn. Lane position 2 is always going to be in the middle, and then there's going to be the outside, which is lane position 3 in the United States. So if you just want to think about it is inside, middle, outside, it's pretty simple with that. So this is going to be he's on the inside, and then it almost feels like he's going wide. Now, the reason why he's going wide is because of too much speed for the turn. Not necessarily too much speed for him, but for the conditions involved. So too much speed for the turn itself. So the thing that you really got to focus on is the situation at hand. Are you riding outside of the situation at hand? Like if it's raining, are you riding too fast for the rain? Are you riding too fast for your skill? Are you riding, you have massive skill, but are you trying to push your bike to its limits? So you have the bike's limits, you have your limits, and then you have the environment's limits. And in this situation, it's going to be the environment, and then the rider's skill is not going to match up very well. And the bike is just going to do whatever it wants to do. So it might be going a little bit too fast. So he's going to go a little bit too fast just for this turn, and you're going to notice how he's going to go wide. So now he's on the outside, and this is where the panic starts to set in. It's like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. What's going on? So typically what happens when somebody has that panic is they're going to just grab that front brake and then slam that rear brake. And more than likely, what's happening here is that he's pressing really hard on that rear brake, and it's pretty easy to do that because remember, your foot doesn't have the same dexterity and tactile feel as your hand. So you can squeeze and you feel like you're squeezing a lot, but when you press down on your foot, it doesn't feel like you're pressing a lot, but before you know it, you're locking up that rear tire. And that's what happens here. So he's going to lock up this rear tire. You see how it's going back and forth? I'm going to go ahead and scroll it back just a little bit. So you see how it's going to go back and forth, and that's going to make him panic, and then he's going to put his foot down. So typically that's going to happen. You're going to try to like stop yourself, like if you're on a bicycle and you're riding and you're going too fast and the brakes aren't really stopping you, you tend to put your feet down and grab that front brake of the bicycle. So that's kind of what's happening here. It's just a natural reaction, or it could have been so much physics and forces moving back and forth that it could have just knocked his foot off and he had to try to gain balance that way. But the rear tire locked up because of too much tire pressure or too much brake pressure to that rear tire. So he's going to go over here, and it's just really going to be flailing him back and forth. And at this point, you're already on incoming traffic. So what happened here is something that typically is going to happen with a beginner trying to attempt trail braking in the middle of a turn without any skill or training. So what's happening here is that typically somebody's gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply trail braking. And it's a terrible word or term, but basically what it means is to apply front brake pressure so the nose will dive in so you have more compression and more weight on that front tire, which will allow more traction, which will allow you to make the turn either at a greater speed or at a slower speed, but with more traction so you can maintain a better turn. So that's basically what trail braking is going to be doing for this situation. But as a new rider, if you panic in the middle of a turn, you don't know how to apply trail braking at the appropriate way, you're going to do this. So, and I'm not saying that's what he was trying to do. This was just literally an accident. So I don't think he was trying to trail brake. It was just a panic brake, but this is very common. It's like, oh, I heard I could brake in the turn. I'm going to do it. And this is kind of what happens. So he's going to go ahead and do this. And there's going to be the back end just keeps sliding. See that smoke? That is going to be from the rubber, basically achieving way too much friction and heat. It's going to go ahead and burn off a little bit. And the reason why it's maintaining a lot of friction heat is because it's locked up. So that's going to happen there. And then this is going to be like almost a low side. So he's going to go into this low side situation where he's starting to fall down to his left. Okay. So this is typically what a low side starts to look like. You start to go to your, like on the inside of the turn. What happened here is that the tires grab traction at this moment. So it grabbed traction on dirt or on a rock or something, but it can easily grab traction on the road itself. And then when that happens, it's going to fling you forward. And those forces is called the high side. It's a lot of force, and you get ejected, and you start having ejection type mechanism of injury. So you're going to have massive impacts. Typically with the low side, you kind of fall down, and then you get that initial impact, but it's not the worst impacts. But then now you have the mechanism of abrasions, so you're going to have a lot of road rash in that situation. So when a low side, a lot of abrasion, a lot of road rash. You could have some pretty bad impacts, but more than likely the biggest issue is going to be that road rash. On a high side, you're going to have massive impacts, and then you're going to have the tumbling. So you're going to have a little bit of road rash, but you're going to have a lot of impact. And that's really dangerous because, impact your head, impact your spine, impact anything that's massive, especially on a guardrail. So now you have the impact of hitting the guardrail at a weird angle. You could have internal bleeding, broken ribs, all these different things, which can cause complications like, broken rib, puncturing the lungs, can't breathe. Where are you gonna get medical attention in this situation? So that's typically what happens. So this is the high side. So now there's the ejection. So at a higher rate of speed, you're gonna be ejected really far. So he's slowed down enough to where the ejection is not gonna push him very far, but we have this problem of the guardrail. So thankfully he didn't hit the guardrail. So he goes face first, puts the hands down. You're gonna have the impacts to the arms, possibly break radius and ulna, or have the impact transfer all the way up to the shoulder. You're just gonna have problems. So thankfully he walked away. He landed in grass, and then he's able to get up. Let's go ahead and just have it normal play. All right, so here's the normal play. So he pulls over. Thankfully, he was able to not crash himself. Definitely a panic moment for the rider. It's his father. It's like, oh my gosh, my dad. I don't want him hurt. So immediately checks on him. I recommend a full face helmet. For the impact protection, but thankfully his chin is intact. But look, he has full gear. It's not a full face; it's 3/4, so it's gonna protect everything except for the face itself. So that it's your choice. Highly recommend that. But full gear. He's got knuckle protection, very good quality stuff. He's got very good quality touring coats and everything. And his son has the same. So I don't know who is the person that convinced the other. Is the father that convinced the son to wear gear, or the son to convince the father to wear gear? But that's the beauty of being in a part of a group, whether it's family or friends, is that you do have an influence. So if you ride with somebody consistently, have a positive influence onto the other. Hey, let's get gear together. Let's do this. Let's make sure safety is a huge aspect. And I'm super glad that they did that. So that's really awesome. So he did hit his chin. You could see the discoloration, but maybe there's something going on there, but not too much. But that would have been protected with full face helmet. So just be aware of that. So let's say he was more injured. So in this situation, I would definitely watch out for any incoming traffic coming around that turn, not paying attention, and then having an issue when it comes to target fixation. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to look at, oh, somebody crashed, and then boom, crash into them. So that's going to be a problem. So my big thing is to have traffic control down that way. That way I can focus on the patient themselves. Definitely have some gear inside my motorcycle bags or backpacks so I can help take care of somebody. And then also on top of that, definitely call EMS or police to get them down there so that we can start the process. And then I can always cancel them or refuse service later on if I don't want to. So what I wanted to do here was to just kind of go over what a high side and low side is, and kind of talked about, too much speed, ride within the conditions of where you're at, the setting, the time and place, and then on top of, your skills. Does it match the time and place, the setting? Does it match your bike? All these different things. My biggest thing is not necessarily the bike's fault. It's going to be our fault, and then how we interact with their environment all around. So hazard perception, make sure we train our skills, and let's just be safe on the road. Mechanism of injury here, very high. If you just stand and fall down, don't even try to catch yourself, hit your head on the ground, you're good chance you're gonna have a concussion or some type of massive injury to the head. You're gonna have bleeding, you're gonna have anything. Just from standing, tripping over, maybe your feet hitting your head. Nope, don't put your hands out, don't